What up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Watch Us Thrive podcast. We have two powerhouse women today, not one, but two, and they're both based out of Philly. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, but I had decided in this new season of the show that I really wanted to be intentional with and curate really specific guests that I wanted to feature on here. And we have the executive director and the president of Women Against Abuse based out of Philly. And we have a former MMA fighter, survivor, and advocate. And she's also a board. Wait, you were the first board member turned survivor to join, correct?
I think I'm like one of the few. I think there's been more than one. Yeah.
One of the few. She's a
Mhm.
bad bitch. Okay.
Okay.
So, with that being said, respectfully, Joanna, I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself. And before we even get started with introductions, I humbly thank both of you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to sit down and have such an important conversation. All three of us are survivors of abuse. All three of us use our voice and our reach to really change the world. And I'm honored to have you both here. So, Joanna, please introduce yourself.
My name is Joanna Otero-Cruz, and as you've already mentioned, I am the executive director and president of Women Against Abuse. We are a nonprofit based out of Philadelphia. We are the largest in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to be providing services for domestic violence. We operate the only two domestic violence shelters in the city of Philadelphia. We have the only legal center, so we're at criminal court and family court, and we have an array of different services for survivors of domestic violence.
Yes, yes. You're out here changing the world one conversation at a time. And I just appreciate you so much for the work that you're doing. Jamie Colleen Miller. Brr, 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 we have a celebrity. They're both celebrities, right? But Jamie, please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. My name is Jamie Miller. I'm a former MMA fighter out of Philly. I'm also a board member with Women Against Abuse and former client. I don't want to give too much of my story away, but my connection with Women Against Abuse came when I was in need of shelter. So my daughter and I, around 10 years ago, needed resources after fleeing my abusive relationship. And from there, everything just like really blossomed and bloomed into something truly amazing and beautiful. I never would have thought then this is what my life would look like today. So.
And I love that you said that because I really don't think that any of us believe that the pain that we've gone through would turn into something so powerful, right? Which is why I love featuring people like you two who are able to turn your pain into your purpose and really inspire others to do the same. So I'm going to go back to Joanna. I want to speak to you being someone who is sitting in the CEO seat, right? What do you think when it comes to domestic violence? There's so many different nuances when it comes to the umbrella of domestic violence. What would you say is the biggest misconception society still have about domestic violence and survivor support? And how does that misunderstanding harm survivors in real life?
For me, I would have to say that, there are so many different misconceptions, but I think the one that frustrates me the most is when I hear individuals say, why does she stay? Why doesn't she just leave? There's always so much criticism on the victim for not leaving the situation. And we all know that that is the most dangerous time for an individual, as you'll hear from Jamie's story. When that individual decides to leave that relationship, I know it was true for me as well. It was the most dangerous time. And when the aggression and the violence, the attacks became worse. It really frustrates me when I hear that because we continue to be victimized, the victim who is experiencing that. And as a society, we need to change that. We need to recognize, number one, beyond just the fear, right? It's dangerous. Also, we have to think about you're talking about having to uproot your children in some cases, right? So, oftentimes, what I tell individuals, how about if I tell you right this minute, pick up what you can in your backpack, and that's all you're going to go with? How easy would it be for you to make that decision to completely relocate, uproot your kids, and everything that comes with that, right? Let's face it, financial, right now, it's about what in Philadelphia, it's you need at least $1,300 for one bedroom. And if you have children, you need at least two. So you're talking about 16, $1,700 just in rent and the additional living expenses. So those are true, real issues. And also, where are people going to go, where they are truly feeling safe? And again, if they have assets together, how complicated that is. Relationships are complex. It's not as easy as to pick up and go. So I think as a society, we have to change the narrative and say, why is the abuse happening? And hold the abuser accountable. Where are the consequences for that abuser? And where are the resources? And again, I mentioned about rent, but affordable, safe housing is a problem, not unique to Philadelphia. That is true barrier to many individuals across our nation.
Yeah, for sure. Jamie, do you want to put your 2 cents in if you want to share a misconception that you being a survivor yourself as well? What is one that really sticks out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I have to piggyback off of what Joanna is saying because I myself experienced when, all of those things where my abuse became even worse when I decided I was going to leave because he tried to weaponize the court system against me. Essentially, when we were in our relationship, I depended on him for everything because I wasn't allowed to work. So there was some financial abuse in that as well. And so everything that I depended on him for in our relationship, he used to weaponize against me when I decided to leave. And it's not just him, it's all abusers. When you decide to leave, they try to strip you of everything because they want to get you to a point where you feel like you have to go back to them. Like, oh, I have no choice but to go back. For me, that wasn't an option. I knew if I chose to go back, even in the hardest moments, well, I'll be honest, there was a time where I was like, maybe I should just like go back, suck it up. And like, because it just the mountain of just everything of having a child, going through that, not having a place to go. I don't have family support here. So it was just her and I didn't have any friends left because of our situation. And so I thought about it, but then I realized if I go back, he's going to kill me. I knew that just because of how critical, how erratic, and just the way things were playing out. I knew I would either just live the rest of my life as a prisoner or he would kill me.
Yeah, and can I just add, we have to also remember that domestic violence thrives in isolation. So what Jamie was saying, they try to really make sure that you don't have those social supports, right? And so, we also have just like cultural pressures, societal pressures, of, keeping families together, and all those things attributes to the individual having to make a life-changing decision in the midst of their trauma.
Yes, exactly. I don't think I've ever had a clear thought or made a very smart decision when I was in survival mode. You know what I mean? And I think that's really important for someone who is lucky enough to have not experienced what we've gone through. It may sound weird for someone who has not experienced what we've gone through to say this, but I am not grateful, but I understand why I went through what I went through because it created the woman who is hosting this podcast right now and having this amazing conversation, right? If I hadn't gone through that, we wouldn't be here, right? But I think it's really important for people to realize who have not gone through what we have is like the shit is real. It's not the things that you see in the movies. It's not the glamorized version. It can get really ugly and it can become deadly. And the same thing happened for me when I went through my experience. My ex, my abuser, he almost took my life. And if it wasn't for me being in survival mode and being in that fight or flight and fleeing, I would not be here today. So I appreciate you both for sharing that. I do want to talk a little bit to the survivor, right? And when he or she comes into women against abuse in that crisis mode, in that survival mode, what does safety actually look like in those first moments? And how do you begin rebuilding trust after it's been broken? Jamie, I'm going to start with you.
I will say those moments for me of seeking shelter, going into a shelter, was certainly rock bottom for me. The way my situation played out, like in the beginning, I just wasn't aware of resources. I didn't know that there were amazing organizations like Women Against Abuse who were there to support, to help, and to get you through. And so everything was just a reaction to what was happening to me. And so when I found myself, which wasn't easy, by the way, because resources are so limited, as we all know. And so actually getting into one of the safe havens was very difficult for me. But I was somebody who was relentless. I think the fighter in all of us, we become relentless. You don't take no for an answer. So for me, it's just that pursuit of I need to save not just my life, but my daughter's. Like I wasn't taking no for an answer. So once I finally got there, for me, it was a moment of just complete despair, right? I lost everything. I went in with basically a bag with stuff in it. I had lost everything. He took everything from me. And it was a moment of both, like, just this profound sense of safety that I had not felt in so long, also a feeling of I can't believe this is my life right now. But immediately following that was just this moment of like, this is my second chance. Like, look, yes, look at where I am, but like, what is this providing me with? Like, I have everything I need now to like fight for my life. Having the support and the love from Wa was just everything exceeded all of my expectations, and so I utilized every resource that was available. The legal center, which I would not have gotten through the first part of like those initial court hearings without them. I think in the span of 4 years fighting in the family court system, we had like I think almost 30 court hearings because he would just file, refile. I would be agreeable to everything just for him at the last second to disagree and just to keep dragging it out. Without Wall, the legal center, I would not have been able to handle that, the weight of all of that. And so I don't remember the second part of your question. I apologize.
It's okay. I don't either. I want to give you your flowers because listening to you sharing a little bit about your story, I think it's first, I'm giving you your flowers for reaching out and asking for help, being in that survival mode. I think that is such a strength that you have within yourself, and it gives other people who may be in where you were 10 years ago that hope and that drive to be like, let me muster up some sort of strength that I have, even though I feel like I'm about to just crash out and I can't take it anymore. I think you having that self awareness is beautiful. So thank you for sharing that. Joanna, I want to hear from you, especially you being, you created this, right? You're the CEO of this and you really created this safe space for people. So, and I want to know, how does it affect you dealing with this day in and day out? How do you navigate that part to the emotional aspect that comes with?
So great, loaded questions. I think for me, as you both said, I think that things happen for a reason. I'm a big believer of that. My experience of domestic violence was many, many years ago, as when as a teen and a young teen mother, and going to the criminal justice system where you are often as the victim feeling like
You're the problem. It's your fault. Yeah.
like, am I the one that's going to be arrested here? Like, it was really scary, as if I was the aggressor, I was the perpetrator. It was a really scary time going through the criminal justice system. In my case, it was more criminal, the acts that he inflicted upon me. And going through a special victims unit and talking to different detectives, it was just so scary as a very young 19-year-old. I think that I remember being infuriated at several points throughout that process because of how they were making me feel, when all I wanted to do is keep myself. I just wanted the abuse to stop. I mean, I remember her father being arrested and me saying, like, don't hurt him, because they were hitting him with the baton. Like, could you imagine how bola, like
Yeah.
we say in Spanish,
Yeah.
how stupid I must have sounded to say, like, don't hurt the man. That's like, yeah, he just beat me half to death, but
Yeah.
don't hurt him,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's it was I remember at different points being so upset with the system.
Hmm.
And so to be in a position where I am still advocating, and we've made a lot of improvements in Philadelphia. I remember the days where advocates were not wanted at the courthouse. And now we have our office there that we can meet individuals, where we are sitting at the table talking about the protocols and how these protocols sometimes are the barriers, right? How can we streamline the system? How can we make it more seamless? Why are we re-victimizing our clients, right? Because now they're having to tell their story like 5 different times. Like, those are the conversations I honestly feel that I am so grateful to be a part of,
Hmm.
because I remember being on that side
Yeah.
where I didn't know what to ask. Think about when you're 19, 20 years old, you don't know what to ask. You're scared. If I have a Spanish accent now, you can imagine what it was like, 30
Right.
years ago.
Mm.
So a lot of, intimidation just by the system, right? People in uniform who are not explaining to you what the process is.
Mhm.
So for us at Women Against Abuse, one, we recognize that individuals are coming to us at a time where they're experiencing a real life trauma, where there is so much being thrown at them for them to have to make informed decisions at that moment. It is really important for us to be non judgmental, to make sure that we're providing a welcoming space for individuals to just be able to breathe,
Yeah.
right? So that they can, get their bearings together, their thoughts together. There's this information, and that we lay out the information in a way that's trauma informed, always being trauma informed. This individual is being asked to parent in their midst of their trauma, when the child is having their own experiences with trauma, that whether this is the best thing for them, they're not understanding at that moment, oftentimes, or they may be upset or blaming or angry because all that they know has been taken away, right? It's not their fault, but they're feeling like everything was taken away. So understanding all those nuances, right? Is extremely important. And we try to do that the moment the individual reaches out to Women Against Abuse. And that's oftentimes through our hotline, as Jamie said.
Yeah.
So, making sure that we're providing information for individuals in a non judgmental way, in a very supportive way, and reminding them that they're the ones that are leading the next process. Our job is truly just to inform them about the resources that are available. When they come into shelter, providing them just their essentials, whether it's linens, their towels, their toiletries, just so that they can have a good night's sleep. We can talk tomorrow, not having to bombard them with like a million questions the minute they get in. Let's find out about what medications are needed. That safety planning that we do is critical because we need to get an understanding about what their basic needs are so that they can feel very welcomed in our space. Because sometimes maybe they didn't get the medications, and maybe they didn't get their children medications, their documents. How do we even start putting together a housing plan if they don't have their birth certificate, they don't have an ID, they don't have a passport? All of these things are really important, but we have to do it in a way that is supportive and not overbearing for the individual. So in our space, we have spaces that if individuals, obviously they have their rooms, but if they need, obviously to step away and go read somewhere or go pray, meditate, we have those spaces throughout the shelter so that they can have that space. We have early childhood center for maybe they need to leave their child there because I need to be able to think for like 2, 3 hours. And so that space is available. We have a teen center because we accept teens. And so, sometimes teens are feeling that they're parentified. They have to watch the little ones. Well, no, you're a child, right? You are, I don't know, 15, whatever the age is, you're a teen. Go be a teen in our teen lounge. Go play a game. Go read magazines. They are into all these comic novels. Go read that, whatever it is that you need to do. Go to our computer lab. So creating these safe places, even in our shelter, is really, really important as the work begins, right? And the work is then connecting them to those services. Do you know your legal remedies? Do you want to pursue them or not? Connecting them to the legal center. Is it accompaniment to court? Making sure their child is registered at school, accommodating all the transportational needs, all of those nuances that case managers do. But again, always from the standpoint of this is your choice. How would you like to proceed? And continuing to provide, again, what's in the toolbox and what would you like to work with today so that we can support you through that.
Yeah, I love all of that. And I'm going to link all of the information on how to contact them if you or someone that you know needs their services Check the description box if you're watching on YouTube or the podcast show notes if you're listening. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. And Jamie, I'm going to go to you because I follow you on social media, girl. You out here popping. And one thing that I love about you, besides the fact that like you're a badass, but you teach self-defense to people now in Philly. The classes that this woman does, I'm like, yo, I got to take a drive out to Philly because sis can throw some hands, okay?
Please come to Philly. Yeah.
Yes, no, trust me, this is the first of many collaborations. I want you to touch more on the self-defense aspect when it comes to the healing journey, right? What does emotional and mental self-defense look like for survivors who are in the rebuilding phase
Sure.
post-abuse?
Yeah. So specifically for survivors, so let me backtrack a little bit. So I founded Philly Self Defense, which is a trauma informed self defense program. I realized post retirement that really wanted to find a way to utilize my martial arts experience with my advocacy. And so that's sort of how that was born. And it was important for me to just provide a safe place to land because I learned that through teaching how important it was to provide a trauma informed space for survivors because I was coming face to face with so many. It just in the beginning started off as just a program. And I felt that the trauma informed aspect was just important across the board. I come face to face with so many different women who have had many different experiences. And so for me, it first was how do I provide a safe place, a soft place to land for these ladies and not make it so much about like the physical aspect of self defense and like, the aggression, all that. It's really not about that at all. It's really overall my program is all about how do I disengage and get to safety? How do I recenter myself? How do I avoid an altercation altogether? So for survivors specifically, it's really all about just like finding your center, coming back home to yourself, trusting your intuition, identifying your boundaries and how to employ your boundaries, how to deal with certain situations with people who have access to you but with no accountability. How do I begin to draw those boundaries without creating a dynamic where I feel like my safety is at risk? And ultimately, I'm able to tie all of that together with the healing through movement aspect, which is teaching women how to defend themselves using like jujitsu principles. So like jujitsu is kind of like it's really is built for like the smaller opponent, and for women, for children, and we really focus on leverage and technique. Sure, there are some because everything's situational. It depends on the situation. So it's important to always train to build that muscle memory because there might be a time where it is a fight for your life. So you do have to use all of your power, your muscle, everything all together. So I don't want to say it's just the technique. In most cases, yes, but some cases it's like, yeah. So it's important for me to also having like helping them to understand that it's okay to be uncomfortable. So sometimes we are, and when we're doing like role playing and things like that, where we allow the discomfort and how do we work through this and a controlled, safe space. And so that's essentially how I build my programs. We also focus a lot on breath work. Just like I said, a big part of it is just coming home to yourself and learning to
Yeah.
trust yourself. It's really just all about, yes, self defense, but it's also about the self. I like to focus on the whole person, not just, the physical
Yeah.
components.
Yeah. Do you want to add anything? I know you're not an MMA fighter, Joanna, but what about you when it comes to, I'm sure you could throw some hands, okay? But what do you think is important for survivors to focus on after, the abuse has happened and things have kind of calmed down a bit? What would you say is a piece of advice you would give someone who's listening right now?
I think prioritizing self-care is extremely important, and that could look very different for many people, right? Whether it's exercise, whether it's art, whatever it is that people find. But I do think that life is busy. And, in the midst of a trauma, when they're trying to deal with their, like I said, oftentimes most of the individuals that come to us have children. And so they're constantly, right, in that nurture phase, right, taking care of others. And so they forget. I mean, I think it happens to women in general that we forget and we put our own needs in our background, in the back burner somewhere.
Especially Latinas and black and brown women, like we
Yeah.
are the last person to eat at the table.
Exactly.
Always.
And so normalizing the conversation that it is okay for you to take care of yourself. I remember, again, being a single mother afterwards and like 2 and 3 jobs and going to school, what all the things we hear oftentimes from survivors, just trying to keep my head afloat, right? So that I can take care of my child. That I remember the first time I said, I need to go to the gym because I need to like de stress and feeling guilty about it because I just wanted to take care of myself. And so I really do. I talk up to my staff, Jamie, I talk about self
Mhm.
care a lot, but also we model it, right? We have to be able to model it. I tell my staff, like, after a difficult intake, after a difficult case, because vicarious trauma is real. And so they're hearing all of this, right? Many of the individuals who do this work also are survivors, right? And so it's really important that if I need to take a break and I need to walk around the block, I need to do that. If I need to go and just sit down and breathe, deep breathing, truly to kind of like recharge, that I do that. It just means I need to just go get my nails done today, then I go do that too. Whatever it takes. But self-care is so important to recovery.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just getting your nails done or, going to brunch. Sometimes it's doing the really ugly sitting in your shit that a lot of us don't like to do, but that's another conversation for another day. Okay, so for both of you, Jamie, I'm going to have you answer first. For people who want help but don't know how, what is one meaningful action they can take right now to support survivors and create safer communities?
I would just say believe survivors, and following that up with action. So it's really important to, especially if you know somebody and you want to help them, do the research, find out what resources are available, and then have that conversation, help get them connected. It might just look like handing them a hotline card or and then offering to make the call with them. I think it's just really important more than ever, especially like around my mission now, is just why I love so much being on the front lines. You'll see me at like every event, like I'm everywhere all the time. I don't know how, but I am. And but it's important for me for people to know about resources. Like, and then standing in the gap with them. I will hold somebody, I will go to court with anybody, I will connect them with any resource. There's so much that one person can do to help. So I would say first is to, believe them, do your homework, and then how can you, back that up with action.
And I'll piggyback on what you said. And then, Joanna, I want to hear your 2 cents. I think another important thing for someone on the outside looking in, like a
Mhm.
friend or a family, someone that loves this survivor and wants to support them, keep your opinions to yourself, especially in the beginning. Don't say, well, I told you so. Or, what did you think was going to happen? We don't need to hear that, babe.
No, and it's really important to be non-judgmental and then making it about them, like, how can I help you? What's the best way I can support you right now? What exactly what you're saying without offering your opinion or feedback. It's not, it's all about them. How can we best support you?
How can I help you? What can I do to support you? Take yourself, take your ego out of the equation.
You guys just hit it on the nail, be non-judgmental and don't try to be the savior. Because oftentimes we go into that mode, because especially women, because we want to be able to like fix things. And it's like, well, this is what you need to do. Never say those words. This is what you need to do. And provide them safe space to talk, because at that moment that they're talking, they may not be ready to make a move, or be ready to take a step. But if you are there listening, active listening, which means that you need to be quiet, then, it can go a long way. And then, as already mentioned, how can I help you? And also, I think giving affirmations, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, let them know you are not the first and you will not be the last. Unfortunately, this impacts 1 in 3 women, and you will get through this. You will get through this. What can I do to help you? And, it's different than telling them what to do. And again, I always encourage individuals to call the hotline. They don't have to be ready to do anything. It could just be informatory. And as a matter of fact, a lot of people that call the hotline are calling to see if, am I in this type of relationship? Am I in a healthy relationship? And that's okay. If they need that level of affirmation, our domestic violence counselors are equipped to go down the checklist. And then maybe that's their moment of, aha, I am in an unhealthy relationship. There's also the national hotline because I know you're on a podcast. So they will direct you, the national hotline will direct you to your local programs wherever you're calling from.
I love that you said active listening because
Mm.
a lot of the times we listen to respond and not listen to really take in and understand what is being said. Sometimes you just need to shut the fuck up and not say a word.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just need to vent to you of how today I'm not feeling great, and I just need you to be like, "Okay, thank you for sharing that." And I don't need you to tell me to do anything in return, you know? I think it's just so important, like Jamie said before, take yourself out of the equation
Mhm.
and just have that empathy for
Yeah.
anyone who's coming to you because we're being vulnerable, we're opening up, we're literally bleeding our trauma is to the world. And for someone to have a mindset of like, well, I told you so, you know, like that's just going to make me shut down and go back and be like, oh, this is why I don't speak up to begin with, because I don't want to deal with the shame that I'm feeling within myself. And now I'm getting it from someone who supposedly says that they love and support me. That's not what we need.
I love that you said that. That also plays into some of the work that I do in collaboration with PPD. So I do a lot of like storytelling, sharing my own story because I essentially went back because there were people who I wanted to thank who were like very helpful and just for being who they were throughout my journey and kind of just changed the trajectory for me in certain moments. And so going back and then that turning into a beautiful partnership. So now I get to work with some of the officers who were responded to my situation or when I called, they came. So with that being said, now we get to speak to them about like how important their responses are and also being that non-judgmental, like active listener. Because a lot of times I'm learning that PPD gets very frustrated because they'll go to the same house like, you know, countless times and they're like, "Well, why don't they just, why don't they just leave? Why like we're tired of like not that they're tired of coming there, right? But it's more of like we want to help and it doesn't feel like we're able to help them." So I'm like, just keep showing up, be non-judgmental, provide them with resources, take the time to speak to them, to hear them, to see them because when the time comes and they are ready, you want them to call you. They want to know that they have a safe place with, law enforcement, people who are going to respond if they need the help. So I really love everything that you just said.
Absolutely. And thank you for mentioning the legal system. I mean, that's a
Mhm.
whole other conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But Joanna, this is one question that I wanted to ask before both of you share all the exciting projects that are coming
Mhm.
for 2026 at WAA. What kind of system change do you believe is non-negotiable if we truly want survivors not to just escape abuse, but to thrive forever?
So I think that could be a whole segment by itself,
Girl.
but I'm going to say a couple of things. One is, Jamie already said it. We have to believe our survivors. And when there is response, we need to get those warrants. We need to issue those warrants quickly. And if they're not being believed in the forefront, then there's delays and you could just, unfortunately exasperates oftentimes. So, working with law enforcement to really get those warrants expedited quickly and also from the protection from abuse orders, if they're calling for gun relinquishment, that we're actually collecting those guns because we know that lethality increases if there's a gun in the home. And if the victim is telling you they have access to weapons in the home, we need to take that very, very seriously. And what we're seeing, not just unique to Philadelphia, but throughout the country, is that even when petitions have relinquishment as part of the order, there is a huge significant delay. And we have to also improve communication to the victim. If the gun hasn't been relinquished, we need to let that victim know that. If the individual made bail, we need to communicate that. So, therefore, we need prosecutors part of the system, right? Under the DA's office. We need experienced prosecutors that are assigned to these cases, not just in the beginning. We need that same prosecutor to follow the entire case through because that is how trust is built. It's the same person calling Jamie to let Jamie know about what's happening with the case or what to look for when you come to court on Monday, what to expect. If we have to pivot or any of those nuances, then it makes a difference in Jamie showing up, Jamie feeling that in trusting the system, whether it's the prosecutor, whether it's the detectives, or whoever it may be, but that prosecutor being constant is really, really important. And I'm going to pause there.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, we could go on and on and on and on
Mhm.
and on, but that'll be a part 2. Okay, so let's talk about exciting projects for 2026 and how can we stay connected with each of you?
So I can go real quick. Women Against Abuse is celebrating our 50th year of service to survivors of domestic violence. It's sad that we have to be around for 50
I
years,
know.
but the need is great. And so we are privileged to be in a position to support individuals. And, we're doing different activities, cultivation events. We have a huge fundraiser on June 11th. It's basically a woman chef competition. So we have our savory and our delicious sweets. But it's a fun time. It's a great time to be around individuals who are like minded, who are, just in it together to fundraise for this great organization so that we can be around for another 50 years. And again, if you're interested in supporting as a sponsor or just coming in as an individual, you can buy individual tickets. You can visit our website at womenaganstabuse.org. Dish It Up is the name of the event. And also, if you visit our website, there's lots of information in multiple languages. So again, there are resources available. And if you also just want to get involved in terms of some of the political policy driven advocacy that we must do to stay alive, especially at this time when there are so many things, that nonprofits are under attack right now.
Hmm.
Visit our Take Action, again, womenaganstabuse.org, Take Action, where we connect you to your local legislators to let them know what's on your mind.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much. And again, I'm going to share all of the links in the show notes or the description box and get your tickets, okay? Don't just talk
Mhm.
about it, be about it, okay?
Yes.
Jamie, anything that you want to share?
First of all, Dish It Up is, I just have to say how incredible, and it gets better and better every year. So, yes, if you're listening, get your ticket, and it's amazing. So, as far as myself, I'm just staying the path. Like 2026 for me is just the year of multiply. So, I just want to scale and grow what's already working. I don't need to, I'm just really staying true to this path of Philly self defense more and more. Just how can I, stay connected, get more connected within the community, just, helping women, youth through collaboration and yeah, just staying on that path forward. So,
Yes, and I'm gonna bring you to Jersey, girl. I'm gonna bring you to
yes,
Jersey
please.
because we need this amazing connection in person.
Oh, I'm so sorry. If I could say, I forgot. So I do have an event coming up with PPD, the 26th district, which is the Fishtown, Northern Liberties area of Philadelphia. And so, yeah, we're just rolling out a self defense event. It's free, so anybody who wants to come and learn self defense. So it'll be a great time.
Amazing,
Yes.
amazing. I adore both of you so much. This is the first time that I am connecting with you, but I'm just again so grateful. And shout out to Katie because she's the one who was like the
Katie!
yes, we love you, Katie. Thank you so much for making this happen. And thank you both so much for agreeing to come. Real quick, this conversation was supposed to happen back in 2025. Y'all heard my solo episode of how I lost my mind in 2025, and it just was not the season for me to really be able to sit down with these two powerful women and have this conversation. But like we said, everything happens for a reason. And I truly, truly believe that you both were brought into my life for a reason. And I just want to thank you both so, so much from the bottom of my heart for the work that you do. It is not easy. Talking about domestic violence, reliving our trauma through sharing our stories is not easy, but we do this work because we are literal testimonies and proof for y'all who are watching, who may be in your season of darkness right now and you feel like there's no way out. There's three women right here who have showed you that we have turned our pain into power. And you're watching us thrive in real time. That's why the podcast is called Watch Us Thrive. Don't let that go over your head. But again, thank you both so much. I appreciate you so much. And until next time, this is your girl Leanne. Keep glowing, growing, and thriving.